Welcome to Ukraine Simplified.
We're your hosts,
Tilly,
Michaela,
and Rigney.
And today we'll look at the question, how do ethnic Russians living in Ukraine feel?
We'll explore the history behind ethnic Russians living in the Ukraine.
Do Russian speakers in Ukraine support the war?
And do Russian speakers feel Ukrainian?
Let's start with the history of how Russian speakers in the Ukraine actually began. According to a video from the New York Times, Russian-Ukraine ties explained it started when the Soviet Union was still together. Russia put several factories in eastern Ukraine for Russia. Then, Russia brought in many workers to work at the factories. Later, in 1981, Ukraine and Russia were connected through gas pipelines from the 60s and 70s. Basically, the Russians living in Russia are from the Russians who worked at the factories in Ukraine, and so did all the generations after them.
Our next question that we're going to explain is, do Russian speakers in Ukraine feel Ukrainian? And to answer this question, we found that an article from the Washington Post said that 1,300 people were interviewed from 4 major cities, one of which was Kiev, which has a large Russian population. The data showed that 71% said they were Ukrainian citizens, 34% of which said they were Russian-speaking Ukrainians. This shows that most of the people who live in the Ukraine, a country with many Russian speakers, most feel Ukrainian, even if they are ethnically from Russia. It was also mentioned in an article from CS Monitor that Sergei Ivanovich said he's ready to take up arms and defend his land if necessary. Even though he's ethnically Russian, he still feels Ukrainian and is even willing to go against the country that he is from.
And the final question that we're going to be answering today is, do Russian speakers living in the Ukraine support the war? You might think that people who are ethnically Russian would probably support the war, but for some, that is surprisingly untrue. According to an article from Christian Science Monitor, Larissa Vladimirovna, a bookkeeper in Ukraine, said,
"We are fed up with all this war. Nobody invited Russian troops to come here and kill our people. For me, it is clear. I am Ukrainian."
This is showing that Russian speakers in Ukraine don't support the war, most likely because of recent events. Another thing was said by a student named Veronica in the Ukraine.
If you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would have told you the old Russian ways were preferable.
This is interesting because it shows that someone living in Ukraine would have supported Russia, but basically, current events and things that Putin has done has made the Russian speakers in Ukraine not want to support Russia.
So now you know the take on Russians in Ukraine.
From whether they feel Russian or Ukrainian,
To if they support the war.
I hope you enjoyed listening and found this informative. Thank you for listening.
or